What's up, guys? This is JTQ9 of SSX-1, and welcome back to the channel. I am excited for this war because for the first time in a very, very long time, I am not seeing Void in the first section of Hazard Shift, which means I get to take different fights this war and get to use some different champs. Although I love using Penny, don't get me wrong, but I'm really pumped up about this war. I have 6 big fights against a really tough alliance, and I'm really excited to go. So let's get going with this. If you haven't already noticed, we are up against the Matrix at 31-31. We are currently sitting at 32-28, which is dropping readily as I think we're 2-3 after the start to this season, which could be a little bit better. But anyway, in this first fight, I've got a Nimrod on, an R4 Nimrod, actually, on Footloose, Kinetic Transference. I've never taken him here. My strategy basically going into this was monitor his power, push to an S3, and that's where I would kind of do most of my damage, and then bait out the SP2 as much as possible. And knowing that when I was dueling him that the Doom cycle typically wouldn't work, because let's say if I were to throw the special when he has the kind of the orange charges up, that means I'm going to be constantly power drained, or power leaked, or however you want to explain it. Or if I threw it with the armor up, it wouldn't do as much damage. So for the first one, I elected to throw it with the armor up, just so I could see how I could control the power. I did have a 200 power boost back, just to kind of help out. And then the idea was to try to land, some SP2s with a Fury up to really maximize the damage as much as possible. Again, the idea is I wanted to try to keep the staggers up. As you can see, I failed at this point. But I really wasn't worried about this fight at all. As you can see, I finished with a full yellow bar of health. So fight 1 done. Really happy about that. Whatever, 39 hits, didn't take any. And this war, for whatever reason, I was in the zone. I don't know if it was the Neocitrin I had, because I'm feeling way better today in terms of how I'm feeling health-wise. My lingering cough is still there, but not really, so it's just way better. I also want to say on a side note that these fights I'm taking, we waited till after the boss went down, which means they're a lot easier. You can take them. You don't have to worry about the armor up unstoppable happening. This one here, very straightforward fight with Civil Warrior. You're going to nullify kind of everything. As you can see, Claire has the 20 charges already. I elected to go into Hellfire because I wanted to do the most damage possible. And then if for whatever reason I took some hits, then I would at least go to the bleed phase and heal up where possible. But as you can see, that was a really quick fight, and before we could even get started, the fight's already done. So on the next one here, we've got Null. You've seen me take this a couple times in the past. I could have gone with Doom. I had some success with him. I elected to go with Mole God because I was going to be using him on the fight after my scroll. So that way I switched to my 200 boost, so I wouldn't have the Mystic one on for scroll. And I've taken this a couple times. Being an R3 as well, I knew that I had the cycle down of how I wanted to play him. So I put the 200 on. Elected to just keep my 12% attack bonus for with Doom because I was taking a lot more Doom fights after that. Again, the idea here is parry 3 times heavy. Make sure he doesn't throw the SP1. Intercept with the unstoppable kind of Mole Man intercept, and then punish with SP2s constantly. So as you can see, I'm building up the charges just so once I go into Frenzy that I don't have to worry about, in case he goes unstoppable or unblockable, pardon me, that I don't have to really worry about having parry and heavy just to get my Frenzy charges back up. But as you can see, I did 2 hits there. For whatever reason, I like taking some hits to the face just to, make sure I'm still awake and to really get that shot of adrenaline that, you're just missing when fights are ending too quickly. But as you can see, he went down. Had some problems with that, or kind of, 5, 6, 7 wars ago where I was struggling a bit, but now I've really found my rhythm against him, so every time I see him there is no longer an issue. With this scroll fight, again, my strategy was to basically just use SP3s, as he is Incinerate immune, and to keep the staggers up, so when he does gain buffs and Mystic Dispersion would just kind of take over. That was the plan. from memory, I kind of got behind on some stuff and then, elected to just try to keep power. And then the most important thing when fighting him, oh yeah, it's true, there's Mighty Charge on this as well, is to just pay attention to the falter, because that's where you can really get into trouble. So as the timer's coming up, the idea is you got to figure out a way to get a hit in and then back out, so then you can punish again and start the whole cycle over again. So the good news is that, and with the Mighty Charge and with the protection up, I had to try to bait an intercept there, so my SP3 would do more damage as well. So fortunately, I was able to get that off, pull into a full Doom cycle. For some reason, just out of habit, I don't know why I threw that SP2. My intention was to 100% go back to the SP3. But again, I was super comfortable with how this fight was going, never really concerned, because I knew he wasn't gaining a ton of debuffs. His falter, I was paying attention to the timer. And I think, I pushed him to SP2 once, which was a complete accident. There I got my intercept, so the next time I go to the SP3, I throw it kind of right away just to make sure that I can do the maximum amount of damage. And then whatever health he does have left should be done by this next kind of Doom cycle. And then just like that, he is done. So that was one of the fights I was other than Nimrod one, which I wasn't sure how I was going to go because I never really took it. That scroll was the other one I was kind of the most nervous about. Gulk with basically no node. Yes, it's a safeguard, so it's a 1% damage, like cap basically per source. But with Mole God, you get the frenzy up and he just melts people away with the bleeds. So with this particular fight, there's really not much to it from as we're going through it. So again, I land the heavy, get the charges up. The frenzy's ready, but I keep going because I don't need True Strike with here. So again, just to maximize the amount of time that I'm in frenzy, and then trigger it, get to the SP2 for some reason. That was the other thing too. In both the last two fights, for whatever reason, I thought I had an invulnerability boost on, so that's why I didn't start with the typical kind of advanced power boost with Mole God. And at the same time, I knew I've taken this fight before without the charges. It's very straightforward. You have to just watch out for his specials. The SP1 can be tricky at times, but the SP2 for the most part is pretty easy to dex out of the way. Although with Mole God, because he doesn't dex back necessarily as far because he's a large or extra large champ, you just have to be careful and to not be clipped. But again, I wasn't particularly worried, and as you can see, the damage is coming down. I think I do another Mole God intercept there, and then right after that, 10 bleeds up there, which are super nice. And he is finished. So for my last fight, Toffrey and I were having a competition as to who was actually going to take this, because at this point when I moved up to the Doom, we were all out of energy, and I had thrown on some big boosts, 6-hour boosts, just to try to get through the fight all in one night. As you can see, there's still 13 and a half hours left in the war, so we got through this kind of pretty quickly. But in the end, Toffrey's 30% boost fell off before mine. And that way I was very happy to take this fight. So in this case here, the strategy is to kind of step back, intercept, get the shock up, get the stagger, and then try to nullify the rod, because once that happens, he becomes incinerate immune. He's no longer incinerate immune, and you can do all kinds of additional damage. So pushing him to the SP2 is never the idea here. You always want to try to keep it to the SP1, which is easier to dex. But trying to build up, and at this, I remember, I forgot about the limber on this, which usually I was stepping back, and obviously with brute force as well, you have to be careful with the damage you can take. But I finally got to my SP3. Apologize for whatever reason I didn't speed this one up. Usually I speed up the Doom SP3s, but I guess since we're having so much fun, let's just keep this going. And I went to a normal Doom cycle, the SP2, and then just like that, in just over a minute, the fight is done. So my war, being the 6 fights, it was fun. I got to use kind of different champs on different nodes this time. As much as I love talking about Penny and some of the fights I normally take, it was nice to have a change. So at this point, I forgot to snap a picture right at the end of the war, but we ended up tying this battle group, and in the end, we ended up losing, unfortunately. We got just behind early and we ended up losing 7-5. I think they went maybe 40, their last 40 fights, they didn't die. So unfortunately, we dropped another one. So our ranking is slowly going down, and we're going to need to pick up some wins even now to just, like, I think we're in Platinum something. We're not even in Masters anymore. So we're going to do our best to try to pull together and get back to at least Masters to finish off the season strong, because a 2-4 record is definitely not a good start. So thank you all for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.